Now, it is always my pleasure. She joins us every couple of weeks. As I like to say, we put the bat logo up into the skies of Providence, and we make the call out to Monique Chartier, her of the No Tolls Rhode Island, the Center for Freedom and Prosperity, and as I always like to say, every organization that really matters when it comes to taxpayer rights, individual rights, civil liberties, and freedom. She's joining us in studio again for another conversation about, and sometime soon I have to have my good friend Mike Riley on, in its earliest incarnation on the coalition. Back we were in our primordial, crustaceous, digital, non-digital, analog only, terrestrial phase on something I think they used to call radio that used to matter. We would have a segment with Mike Riley. Maybe I should use this every week for this segment, but we would always call it How Screwed Are We here in Rhode Island? Being really nice and upbeat for the last hour has been difficult. Fortunately, the Lincoln School people gave me ample ammunition to be it. Now, however, my cold, cynical reality is setting back in. Monique, welcome back to the coalition.
Thank you so much, Pat.
So how screwed are we?
Oh my God! Well, you tell us. You attended a hearing today, or I'm sorry. We have to.
I want to close out of that because.
Okay, good.
I just want to say this,
Yes.
and I'll wax poetic in that in the last 10 minutes of the show, but it takes a lot at this point. I mean, if you go back to the version of the Grinch that matters, which is, of course, the 1960s version, my heart has truly been shriveled by the Rhode Island government to that of the sub-crustaceous walnut level. All right? I mean, there is nothing less. So to evoke any level of anger out of me, frustration, or really any demonstrable display of human emotion on even the most basic level is really kind of astonishing. And I just want to give full credit to the Rhode Island government, the Gina Raimondo administration, because she has managed in her own inexplicably crazy way to do what heretofore was thought impossible, and which is to unify both the progressives, the libertarians, the Greens, the Republicans, the conservative Democrats, anyone with a conscience, in a way that is astonishing, because at this point, all of us hate this government. And I use the term hate intentionally. That may be judgmental, that may be a bad word, that may be a code word. What do they call it now? A dog whistle. No, it's not a dog whistle. I'm saying we freaking hate this government because of what went on today. But hey. Anyway, so
we look forward to going back to that.
We'll reach to that in a minute.
But you're raising a good point, because the Governor Raimondo has implemented certain policies, and the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity has developed, and she's always bragging about how the unemployment rate is just doing better and better and better. And the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity, rifreedom.org, please visit there, has developed something that we feel is a much more accurate portrayal of the individual and business communities' economic situation, rather than just the very narrow scope of unemployment and employment, because it's called the Jobs and Opportunity Index. It was developed by Research Director Justin Katz, and it takes into consideration far more factors as to where a person stands economically. For example, full-time versus part-time employment.
Break it all out for us. Go into as much detail as you want on this, because this is really. We had someone on last week from the 1889 Institute, and they essentially took state income figures and tossed them like salad up into the air, and played 52 card pickup with the data. And when you got done and they actually created a real objective analysis of the data, you realize just how full of horse pucky most of the statistics that our government feeds us are, and how geared they are to an individual outcome. And Ms. Raimondo's continued insistence that, in fact, that the jobs economy has been reborn under her administration is total, complete nonsense.
No, it absolutely is, and it is confirmed with the most recent Jobs and Opportunity Index. So, and again, it takes into consideration how, the trend of personal income, how much we're paying in taxes. And so Rhode Island has, regrettably, and it's ranked by state, and Rhode Island was 48th out of 50th nationally, and we have now dropped to 49th with the most recent JOY ranking. And what is really alarming is that over the past year, annualized, our incomes have fallen by 1.5%, and the amount of taxes that we are paying has risen. So this is really going in completely the wrong direction for Rhode Island, and I think it is a complete indictment of Governor Raimondo's policies, and I'm not gonna leave out the General Assembly. They keep passing budgets that are not at all helpful to the state, that are far too helpful to insiders and cronies and not helpful enough to businesses and the ham and eggers like you and me and people all around the state. So this is a really alarming trend, and I think it, as I said, it is an indictment of her approach to, just the outrageous approach of handing out, welfare to large wealthy corporations at the expense of all of us. It is a resounding indictment of that approach, and we need to back away from that because it is clearly not working.
Now here's the not so subtle irony here. I'm a libertarian, proud of it, and there are those who, prior to the Libertarian Party's reemergence a few years ago, would have called us Koch brother corporatists.
Really?
Absolutely. I'll save the B word, the banner word for you guys, but we're Koch brother, dark money corporatists who seek to exact, cue the twirling mustache, all right, money from the poor. So here it is, the libertarian and now you're a dark money Bannon person,
Yes.
all right?
Absolutely, I'm sure.
And we're screaming to holy hell about giving money to corporations.
Exactly right. We are completely opposed to it.
Just on
We are completely opposed to it.
right, every single level.
Absolutely.
There is absolutely no justification whatsoever at any level, at any time, at any place, to give a free market, to give advantages to people who are politically connected, whether it be corporations or individuals.
Exactly
All right,
right.
we are crystal clear on that. We're against corporate welfare, corporate cronyism, call it whatever the hell you want. No, zero, zip, nada, never, private-public partnerships, whatever buzzword cliche you want to apply to it. It's fair to say your group, the group that I represent, we are completely opposed to it.
Absolutely, just a level playing field. Everybody pays the same taxes, everybody has the same burden. Don't be, handing out favors to certain companies because you want a good press interview.
Right, so, and we'll get to that. So, you've got this alleged, and she self-describes herself as progressive.
Yes.
Now, if I can quote a certain vice presidential candidate, I know progressives. I'm friends with some progressives. She is no progressive. Because to me, at least, and I distinguish between progressives and liberals. To me, progressives, I don't agree with their economics, but I've met a lot of fundamentally very good people who are seeking to improve the quality of other people's lives. Her ploy is a cynical, twisted version of progressivism, where she somehow conflates the notion of helping people with giving special deals to people who purport to, with no absolute guarantees, either on performance or even attempts, to quote unquote bring jobs, because as she says, it's jobs.
Yes, exactly.
Jobs.
So we can move forward.
So
We have to move forward.
Right. So again, let's go into some factors here
Yes.
on Justin's JOI index.
Yes.
Give us all the ingredients.
I don't have the whole thing, I'm sorry, I don't have more of it, but in other words, it takes into consideration whether some people are employed full-time versus part-time. Apparently that's not taken into consideration in the unemployment rate. How much dependency people are on government programs.
Mm-hmm.
What is your income rising or is it falling? How much do you pay in taxes? And as you said, what she does is she cherry picks a very narrow set of criteria, basically to make her policies look good, and that's what comprises the unemployment rate, and it is simply not an accurate factor at all.
Right, because we're not even really discussing the size, even on its most elemental level. We're not really discussing the size of the how many people are actually employed, nor are we analyzing, in her case, the numbers of whether they're full-time employment or underemployment.
Correct.
We're not analyzing the real-time changes in purchasing power afforded by people, and as was aptly pointed out last week by the 1889 Institute, that you can have a higher degree of income, but if in fact a lot of that money is reflected in increased cost of living because of government regulation, because of government taxes and fees and penalties and fines and everything, which way your actual gross domestic product in an individual economic entity like the state of Rhode Island can actually be lower. And as a result, the quality of life, which is what you're reflecting here, is lower.
Exactly right. That is exactly right. What's the point of having higher income if it's going to government and government mandates?
Right.
Exactly right.
So who are some of the states that are better than us.
I don't have this.
Besides
I will
everybody.
say that we are last in New England, so let's put it
Excellent,
that way.
excellent. So Vermont is beating us.
That's correct.
I mean, love to my friends in Vermont, but you're all a bunch of commies up there, and you're beating us. All right, yeah.
That's a good point.
I
Yes,
say that with
Vermont
love.
is ahead of us. Yeah.
All right. So Vermont's ahead of us. Cow Hampshire is ahead of us.
Oh yeah, they're number one. I mean, they're at the top of
Right.
this ranking.
Maine.
Maine
Maine
is
is
ahead
in front of us.
All those damn hicks up there. Damn it, how could they be ahead of us?
All right. Connecticut, which is literally
ooh.
on the verge of collapse,
Ooh, yes.
they're ahead of us.
Yeah. Ooh,
I
ooh.
just. But here's one thing we can guarantee: there is a focus, a sense of urgency, an eye on the ball, a laser-like attention. I can keep going with cliches. By the Raimondo administration to get us out of 49th, isn't there? With the right effort, we can be 50th, right?
And we are on the right track to get there, Pat. We are on the road to get there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, what the hell do you say at a certain point? And again, the question I always ask you, in the last few weeks that I've seen you, is anything changed? Is anything working at any level?
Honestly, not that I'm seeing. I mean, we just continue to hand out more and more money to rich corporations at our expense. And no, the answer is no. Are you seeing anything?
No. There's just more store closing, more business closings.
God.
More. I drive around here in the streets of down Providence. As we say, I love this city. And someday I hope to be able to afford to live here. But it's no.
Right.
No, nothing.
And then joy is an incomplete confirmation that we are not seeing anything positive.
Right. I would be interested when you have the full report. I'd love to put that up on our website or share a link to yours, because I think numbers don't lie, do they?
No, absolutely not.
Right, and it's really
personal income. Again, personal income is falling, and the amount we're paying in taxes is rising. That is just completely the wrong trend to be following.
Right, and so right now we've got this kind of every broken city in America, my personal belief, as a sop to the taxpayer to make them think that they've got a future, is talking about the Amazon headquarters. Now, you folks, again, study the numbers pretty carefully. Short of writing a really big check, big, really big, is there any compelling reason for Amazon to move to Rhode Island?
No, absolutely not. We have an appalling business climate. We have high taxes. We have high regulations. I can't speak to the education of our workforce. I'm not sure it's there, which goes to what your correct pet peeve is about the education system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that we offer anything, and that is the result of decades of poor policy out of Smith Hill.
Right.
That we are not in a position to encourage Amazon to come here.
Right. And so then we move on to now, Amazon, in the type of facilities that they're building, are distribution centric.
Yes.
They're not making any products. They're not really inventing any products here. They're here or they've got a facility in Fall River. There's really no focus. Now this is the talk, which is delusional, to say the least. The notion that they would actually move corporate headquarters here, because why would you move highly compensated individuals to a high tax state?
Exactly.
No one's going to come and work for you. People will leave.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
You're not going to retain talent here.
And they look at that. They look at income tax brackets and
Right.
rates when they decide whether to come to a state, and that's one of the many reasons that Rhode Island is not a welcoming state.
Right, and they look at death taxes and things like that.
Exactly.
If you study our condition, despite all the Sturm und Drang of the Raimondo administration, and the statistics that you folks have seen, has there been, over the last, now we're going on 3+ years.
Yes.
Somebody told me that it's been like 1,000 days or so.
Oh, I guess I've, yeah.
Right. Now, over those 3 years, has there been any upward swing in any of these numbers?
Honestly, I'm trying to think. It's not coming to mind, no. The thing is that we have crept up, but we keep lagging behind. Everybody else is going faster than we are.
Right.
That's the problem.
And the growth is exponential in their place, and the
Exactly.
difference. So, if in fact you're going to move, the only jobs we get here are distribution, and distribution by definition requires trucking, wouldn't the newfound love affair with toll gantries be self-defeating?
Yes, exactly. As somebody said, I don't know if it was you, was it first or second when Governor Raimondo was making the case to Amazon that we got truck tolls coming, baby. Amazon, come on in. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, that's going to bring them in, truck tolls. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, can we talk about today?
Yeah, we can talk about today. So at 2 o'clock this afternoon, there was a, well, first of all, I found out about it yesterday, and I don't pretend to be the most connected person with either the news or reality for that matter. I scanned my news feed, and I made no secret of the fact that I'm a profound admirer of the American Civil Liberties Union, and Steve Brown and his folks were the ones that raised the alert to me.
Absolutely.
I think they were really the ones that broke the news at the state level.
Yes.
Yes. The American Civil Liberties Union obviously has a legitimate and very strong concern with the privacy of data collected by the government.
Correct.
So 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I'm hoping next week to get there were 2 legislators there, State Representative Sherry Roberts, and I hope to get them on the show because they were there.
Excellent.
And I got there late. I got there about 20, 25 minutes late. And I've got so much what I'll call testimony fatigue. You typically, that the first 15 or 20 minutes of a state hearing are going to be filled with nonsense and blather.
Right.
And self-opprobrium and, you just know that. So for those of us who actually have to occupy positions in the dreaded private sector, getting there on time is a challenge.
Yes.
Technically, where I work today is my day off, which means I only work 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours.
God.
All right? Because reality. So I get there about 25 minutes after 2, and I figure, okay. So I pile in the building and say, where's room 2B? They said, oh, you're going for the hearing? They go, yeah, I think it's already done. What? I just drove my sorry butt in traffic because, now it was a Friday before Columbus Day weekend.
Oh, and let's stop and note that, by the way. That's when they're holding the hearing.
Right.
On a Friday afternoon before a long holiday weekend.
Right, that they announced essentially a day or so before.
Right.
Buried on, and I'm still trying to work out all the facts on this. So, this is a reflection at first blush, if you will. So you're right, they scheduled this at the last minute on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock in a meeting room in the bowels of Mordor / Halitosis Hall. First reflection, you're probably aware of this, I'd forgotten it. There is no free parking for civilians anywhere around that building.
Right.
None.
Right.
So participatory democracy comes at a very real cost. I think it's something to the effect of 25 cents every 15 minutes. And essentially, the state of Rhode Island has decided that the cost of your participation in this representative democracy is 25 cents for every 15 minutes. Many men and women go through their entire lives wondering what their word or their efforts are worth. In Rhode Island state government, it's 25 cents per every 15 minutes. So congratulations, all right? You know what you're worth, 25 cents for every 15 minutes. Or in the words of the great Rosanna Dana, you're on your back with the meter running. But so we get there, we manage to find a spot. It's fascinating to note that many of the parking meters in this state now take credit cards.
Yes.
Who knew? In my moment of civil disobedience that day, I chose not to pay the parking. And, well, as it turned out, I'm glad I didn't, because I get up into the building, and I first of all told it's over. I get upstairs. There's some guy from what does John Laughlin call it? The Rhode Island Intergalactic Bridge Tunnel and Space Authority.
Yes, Space Shuttle Authority.
There. And Sherry Roberts is there, and Mark Justorian, and some really good people are there. And they go, oh, it's over. And there's actually a part of my skull is still in the ceiling over at the administration building, because my head actually exploded.
Oh, God.
Because I don't have time for this crap.
Right.
Turned out, according to the brief conversation I had with them, first of all, the guy from the Intergalactic Bridge and Space and Tunnel Authority first thing I was worth with, this isn't my hearing. Well, all right, I'm tired of that crap. All right, if you work for the state government, I'm sorry, it's your fault. I don't care what you do. If you're an executive, and I'm not going to pin this on the ham and eggers like you and me that work, that, change the beds, feed people, social workers, I'm not putting it on them. But if you're a mid-level executive of government, it's on you. I don't care which damn authority you work with. I don't care what your chain of command is. I don't know what your line of responsibility is. I don't care which chart, which pie chart. I don't give a crap about any of that. It's your problem. All right, because I don't want to hear the moral state government equivalent of I only work here, because that says to me I'm just following orders. All right, that's what it means to me.
Exactly.
So I ripped this guy. I mean, I was just seething because turns out, according to the brief conversation with people there, that and like I said, I want to get them on the air so they can be more clinical about it. But a couple people got to say a couple of things. You were not allowed to ask them questions. There was no back and forth. Essentially, this was a kangaroo court. There is a comment period on this that had started on the 19th of last month that no one really knew about. I'm sure it was advertised on some page, some
Technical,
website.
right. Page 64 of the Providence Journal.
And what this means is that it looks like hell-bent to collect all this data without any safeguards as to the privacy of it. But I want to dial it back a step because, my friends at the ACLU and a number of activists there want to complain about safeguards of privacy, which I get completely. I support them. They do a yeoman's job. I want to take it back one level. Why are you collecting the damn data in the first place?
Exactly.
It's nobody's damn business where you drive,
Yeah.
what time you drive,
No.
what you're doing while you drive. It's just none of their damn business.
Absolutely not.
It's just, and the examples I'm going to make that I didn't get a chance to make in front of the poobahs. And by the way, the head Commissioner Alviti, pal, he wasn't there.
Oh.
Governor's representative, some guy named Leach or whatever, showed up after I did. Said, "Oh, it's already over." So I tried to pin him down and ask him a question. Of course, then I uttered the immortal words, "Listen, if I don't like what you're saying, I'm just going to make up what you said anyway." So, and he goes, and then he says to me, thinking witty, "Well, there's not a lot of integrity there." And I said, "Is there integrity anywhere in this building?" No. So please spare me. All right.
And completely absent from the entire roadworks toll program, by the way.
Right. So, by the way, for the record, Mr. Leach said he completely opposes the governor's project on this. He thinks roadworks is a terrible idea, and he believes it should be shut down completely. Quote me on that. So, it's none of their damn business.
Absolutely not.
So, but let's look at two recent history, because what do I like to say? The immortal questions of government are, A, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Balderdash.
Exactly.
All right. Second of all, this data. Let's take two real-world examples. The state of Rhode Island decided to create this prescription database monitoring system. I probably have the words mixed up. Because it was a good idea because it would help people. Mm-hmm. Boldly. What happens to the data after it's been there for a few years? Our esteemed Attorney General decides that he's going to push through legislation which eliminates one of the primary safeguards against accessing sensitive data like that, which is the requirement for a search warrant. So we now have in the state of Rhode Island warrantless searches of the most sensitive information imaginable.
It's just such an egregious violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Just grotesque.
Yes.
The next issue, as listeners will know, that the medical cannabis program is near and dear to my heart. So now the federal government is requiring that they turn over, the DEA is requiring that they turn over all the data in the medical cannabis, including all the information collected by the tags, all this crap that was set up so that we could know who's got it.
Do they want names?
Yeah, they want everything.
Yikes.
So this is the problem, folks. You allow the government to collect information under the guise of we're here to help.
Yes.
You allow them to have access to the most sensitive information imaginable. Now imagine if you're someone who suffers from any one of a number of challenges and with psychiatry, with mental health. As a society, and I've said this several times in the air, we've worked very hard in this generation to work past the guilt and the shame on that. It's an illness. It's a physical challenge. That's what it is. And thank God now there is medicine and techniques to help you overcome that. There are still large portions of society that will use that information against you. So now, if government wants it, they can get it. And I believe was it Labor Secretary Donovan back in the Carter administration, after he was falsely accused, and I'll draw this analogy, after he was falsely accused of a crime, and he was found not guilty in a court of law, and he uttered the immortal words, okay, where do I go to get my reputation back? So after this information is leaked, where does somebody go to get their, I don't want to say reputation, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking medicine necessary to make you whole and healthy, but where do I go to get my privacy back?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and the notion that they will purport that this information of you driving, how fast, all that, is for your safety. If the state was at all interested in your personal safety as a driver, they would simply place a couple of state policemen at the intersection of Route 10 and 195, and out by the Mass border on 195, and they put a couple of state policemen on the S curves.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've driven them late at night, and say hypothetically on Friday nights you spend quality time at a major metropolitan media station, and then you go home, you know that the roads are a bizarre combination of Braveheart meets Jersey Shore meets, pick out the video game. It's open carnage on the roads. This government doesn't give a damn about people's safety, only as it impacts their funding.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no concern whatsoever,
Right.
only to the effect that will have on federal Department of Transportation funds. That's why we have seatbelt laws as a primary offense.
That's
why we have any of this crap.
Exactly.
So spare me.
Mm-hmm.
Frickin'
Exactly.
spare me. So, you had this trumped up hearing. People of good faith invested their time off to come in at the last minute,
Mm-hmm.
and it was absolute blather, absolute nonsense.
And so it was basically a show hearing, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and it's not supposed to be that. It's not supposed to be, okay, we held the hearing, let's check it off. It really is they're supposed to listen to the public and take that input and let it guide the policy. That's what's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be a show hearing.
No.
And just check it off.
Yeah, no, and it's nothing but. So you wonder why people are cynical, why people are disgusted, why people are disconnected. Earlier this week, Gina Raimondo made news at Brown University when she talked about why people are disconnected. Now, first of all, the very notion that she would evoke the word Bernie with the same type of mannerisms that Bernie supporters would adapt when she almost single-handedly engineered the entire Bernie representation in the Democratic state national group to the Democratic National Convention is just disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the patronizing attempt she made at using Bernie as if she was at all affiliated with Bernie is repulsive.
In fact, let's say she betrayed every Bernie supporter in the state. I mean,
Right.
I'm not a big supporter, but that's clear. That it was wrong what she did.
Right. I mean, correct. You are absolutely correct. I mean, those folks, and I'm privileged to know people like Lauren Nadell, who spent a year of their lives advocating for Bernie,
Mm-hmm.
were entitled to a high degree of representation based on the will of the voter,
Mm-hmm.
which is something they're all very worried about. They all give lip service to.
Yep.
They were entitled to a high level of representation at, might I add, a state subsidized and federally subsidized national convention.
That's a great point.
Right? They could claim that the Democratic Party making its own rules. Well, if that's the case, then write your own damn check. Pay for your own
That's right.
security, your own everything. Pay for your own elections.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Why tax dollars are being used to support the duopoly is beyond me, when it's clear the major political parties really have no desire to listen to the Hamanakers. Then the notion that somehow the media is ganging up on her?
No, it's not happening.
What type of press effort does she have in place? How many people?
73, she literally has 73 press people in her administration, and I read it, I haven't double checked it myself, but that's apparently a 38% rise in press people, 38 studios, 38% rise in the number of press people in the state, in the governor's administration and in colleges.
Now, meanwhile, children in this state are literally dying.
She cut, let's stop there and note, she cut DCYF staff by 70 people.
Right.
She cut DCYF staff by 70 people.
Right. So, for whatever reason, and that's a whole nother conversation, it's clear that we need, in this state, at some level, I'm no big government guy, but there's a problem out there right now with babies dying. And I'm not smart enough to have a solution for that. But investing that money in building up her own legacy, that's just terrible.
It is. No, it's taxpayer resources being, promoting a single politician. It's just,
right.
Yeah, it's
Which, by the way, justifiably, if you go back to the Chafee administration, has been pointed out by smarter people than me, when he employed an intern to do some video, the state went bat bleep. I don't see, and I guess that's what's most stunning to me, because the cognitive dissonance here is that just a few years ago, individuals were screaming about a situation. Now, when they're in a position of power, it's not a big deal.
word hypocrisy comes to mind.
Yeah, it's just absolutely. So I mean, if you're, the meter's off the charts at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now we're coming up now. We've got House hearings next week on the Fossox.
Yes.
We've got more Senate hearings. The death march continues as we travel from town to town, listen to the same. And I have yet to. We had Beth Richardson from the Libertarian Party speak at the URI meetings. So this weekend I'll be spending quality time watching the first hour of the Senate meetings, because that's where they discuss the financing. But we still have yet to see, we're about 3-4 hearings into it, specifics of how this quote-unquote ancillary growth is going to take place.
And that's like one of the most critical pieces of this whole plan.
That's why they claim they're doing it. And this is why they claim.
Right.
So, legislative priorities for the next session. I know this is early on. What steps or what approaches Freedom and Prosperity and the various groups that you're involved in, when do they start to assess the next session? Is that coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, right, probably coming up maybe in December as we
Mm-hmm.
ease into January and start looking at what, I mean, I don't see how it's not the business climate, though, that has to have a priority. And it needs to be taken more seriously than it has been.
Right.
So.
Are you, and what I'd be interested on, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine, kind of put you on the spot here, is there going to be another attempt soon, take another run at the sales tax?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's can be a very productive thing to do that. We've
Right.
shown that with the data.
Right. And yet they ignore that data as well.
Exactly.
So there's a selective hearing, if you will, on what data they want to listen to and
Right.
what data they don't.
Right.
Because it's all about the revenues.
Yeah, and I appreciate that they lowered they're trying to eliminate the car tax, but it just seems like they're not actually cutting spending or having the cities and towns cut spending to accomplish that. So
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to sort of take it as a substantive. You have to cut the spending to cut a tax. That's what it comes down to, and that didn't happen here.
Right.
So.
Right, because the budget continues to be bloated on the personnel front.
Exactly.
Are you aware of any personnel cuts that have been made?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And she has point blank refused to even freeze hiring. Just like if the position comes empty, then we'll just let it stay empty. She won't even do that.
Right. So there's really nothing at any level in this state being done to cut costs.
No, certainly not. No, that's not that I've seen.
I
Absolutely
mean,
not.
even Chafee at one point tried to hold the line.
Right. And he did a wonderful job. He had somebody compiling all the regulations that were a burden on the state. I'd like to know what happened to that. to that
Well,
list.
there's a lot of things people would like to know what happened with. In the coming weeks, we reach out to people. We all remember what now we affectionately refer to as the race to the bottom. The state of Rhode Island was engaged in that death, we had to hire these consultants so we could get the race to the top money.
Yes. Yes.
I've spoken to two people who are trying to analyze whatever happened to that. You remember all the hoopla that, we won all this money, tens of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anyone know where it went?
I don't know. Or what effect it had. Doesn't seem to be
Right.
much there.
Right. So folks have reached out to me with that.
Good.
We can't even begin to analyze what a real impact of this roadworks is going to be yet. We still don't know, where the feds stand on a truck-only tax, correct?
Well, that is a really critical point. RIDOT was claiming for years that they had specific approval from the federal government to toll-only trucks, and that was proven by the Rhode Island Trucking Association in the past 3 weeks to be completely false.
Mhm.
Basically, the federal government said, you have the right to toll under the existing regulations. Who you decide to toll is entirely up to you. If you want to just toll blondes who are 4 feet high, that's up to you. We're not giving you any blessing for any specific category of tolling. So that was completely blown up as a myth recently. So, from the beginning, it is hard not to see this as an excuse to toll cars. At the same time, having said that, there has been some considerable, the federal government has started noticing the program, and it seems to be that it is starting to slow down, the momentum is starting to slow down. They're now saying, oh, maybe it's gonna be January, February, March, and you may continue to see that the launch date just continue to get delayed and delayed and delayed, which would be a beautiful thing, because we don't need tolls to come here.
Right, but at the same time, we're spending, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is really in your bailiwick, if you will, we're spending money as if we're going to get those tolls.
That's exactly right. We're spending money frantically, hand over fist, as though we're going to get that money. And that may be deliberately a part of the scheme for them to say, oh my God, we have all these projects that we have to fund, you have to give us tolls. It's really so misguided and so irresponsible to have taken this approach. Oh, we have to have this new revenue stream, because we've got all these amazing, huge projects that we have to fund. It's completely the wrong approach.
Right, and yet this week, Go Local Prop here, folks here at Go Local Prop reported that actually lottery revenues were down for the first time.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Which is, people seem to be confused about that and trying to figure out why and what the causes are. And I'd like to think that maybe Common Core math is actually working and folks are getting better educated and understand that number one, gambling is a scam. You're going to lose money. You're not going to win. And I'll play lotto from time to time because, I'm convinced that based on my personal luck that my number will win the number the week that I don't.
I see.
But number two, and this ties into the Paw Sox argument as well, because one of the arguments that Gresh from WPRO, the sports reporter there, puts up all the time is that I'm not trying to pin him down, but is that we weren't that upset when we spent all this subsidies of the stadium improvements a couple of years ago. Why are we upset now? And I'd like to point out, both in the case of casino gambling, in the case of the lottery, and the case of stadium subsidies, we've kind of woken up.
Oh, absolutely.
As a state.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to the efforts of people like you and Freedom and Prosperity.
And especially you.
Well, but progressive, people like Caprica and Zero, the progressive Democrats, they really put the lie to a lot of this stuff. And no one, and the net impact of it. And I bring this up because it's important for people to understand, no matter how cynical you may feel about Rhode Island's prospects right now, individual taxpayers and individual citizens are so much better educated now about how all this works than they were even 3 or 4 years ago.
That's absolutely correct. I would agree with that. It is a very good thing.
So even though this stuff, we're not in a position to put the smackdown on all of it.
But it's not flying now for them to say, oh, this is going to work out great, and no, we're all standing there saying, you know what, no, that doesn't look right, and no, we're not falling for it this time.
Right, and Russ Moore here at Go Local Prop pointed out, he went to did an analysis at Petco Stadium, which is the San Diego project that the Lucchino people are also damn proud of, and realizing that, it's my understanding, I'm going to dive into these numbers myself this week, that the city of San Diego is essentially writing a check every year for a stadium, and that's for a Major League Baseball team.
Oh, my God.
Where there's a national draw, truly a destination tourist spot at some level. I don't mind, I mean, as much as I love the Paw Sox, I would point out just for a moment that I am actually a minor league baseball fan. True. Believe it or not, I love minor league baseball. Russ Moore in his piece put the lie to that. So it's just everywhere are lies.
Right, exactly.
And damn lies. And again, while we still may be on, the back nine, a lot of these projects, and still having to suck some of them up because of our failed leadership, I am optimistic that in the long run that will change. And the continued death slide of both City of Providence fiscal affairs and the state fiscal affairs will only continue to point out the lie to that.
Right.
Why, if all these projects are so great, why are we going into bigger budget deficits?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So, I don't know. Any messages? How can folks, as always, get in touch with the center?
Please visit rifreedom.org and Ocean State. Also, our blog is oceanstatecurrent.com. Please go there. Justin does some terrific posts, and you can comment and engage in conversation. Please visit both of those websites.
Mm-hmm. And now do you guys still have the Thursday meetings?
Yes.
What tell folks about how they can go to that?
You just would contact, I would just send an email to, I would send an info@rifreedom.org and ask about the Thursday meeting. That would be the best
Thursday
thing to
meetings,
do.
it's down in I think it's in Cranston.
Yes.
It's funny because they're out of bowling alley.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
I got a kick out of that.
Speaking of ham and eggers,
Yeah,
absolutely.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, thank you so much, Pat.
I gotta, in the last minute or two, I gotta give a shout out again to all of our, the wonderful people who help pay the bills here and keep this going. Folks, there are a number of organizations I'd like to point out. iServices LLC, again, server management, SEO, marketing, and optimization, everything you need for the computer life you lead. iServicesLLC.com. Of course, BeaconShippingLogistics.com. If you've got vehicles anywhere in the nation, imagine, if you will, a company with national and international reach, dealing with some of the largest car manufacturers and car dealers in the nation, being based right here in Warwick for local service. So if you're buying that car online, you're trying to send a car out to your son or daughter at college, if there's an elderly relative who wants to gift a car to you, these are all wonderful reasons. Go to BeaconShippingLogistics.com. AirSciences.net, of course, mold remediation, healthy buildings. That's what they do. The wonderful people at airsciences.net. And of course, necam.com/RI. Folks, coming up in just a few short weeks, the Rhode Island Annual Cannabis Convention held here, right downtown La Prove. Folks, if you've got someone in the medical cannabis program, if you're thinking about that as an option for yourself, for your own medical issues, then this is a must-attend event. You can spend a day talking to experts, vendors, medical advice, legal advice, really in one building, everything you need so you can make an informed decision and you can become aware of the medical options you have. A big thank you tonight, as always, to Monique for joining us. She joins us every couple of weeks here at the Coalition. She's become part of the family here, and I applaud you.